Good morning. We started discussing export documentation yesterday. My name is Dele Ayimibo, and this is Import-Export Platform Facebook Live, brought to you by 3 Best Trade Academy. We started discussing export documentation yesterday, and I talked about the fact that one of the very important things a critical element of a typical international trade transaction is the export documentation. Basically, because it's possible the buyer will have to pay before he sees the goods, and it's going to pay on the strength of documents. And that means if the document have issues, then it might likewise be defrauded at the end of the day. This morning we'll be continuing on the basis of that. We'll continue on the basis of that, and we'll continue in our discussion on export documentation. Peter Omeki, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Naimeka and Tony, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Let's remember to share the video with our friends while it's on, for those that might be interested, especially those that have indicated interest in export for you, or in business generally, not just necessarily export. So I continue from where we stopped yesterday. There are a number of documents involved in executing an export transaction. They are categorized into different groups based on their functions, the time of issuance, and government regulation. So there are different categories of product, of document. They are categorized based on their function, based on the time of issuance, and based on government regulation. In terms of function, you say some are financial and some are non-financial. In terms of issuance, you talk about the fact that some are pre-export, some are post-export, and then we have the one for government, which are the regulatory documents. Financial documents, the categorization is based on the function of the document, and the financial documents are documents that are used to demand for payment. In international trade, when I have performed by shipping the goods and doing what I have to do on my part, then I can demand for payment. In demanding for that payment, there are a number of stuff I can do. There are a number of stuff. In demanding for that payment, there are a number of stuff I can do. I can use draft, I can use bill of exchange or promissory note. And these are said to be financial documents. Other documents that cannot be used to demand for payment are called commercial documents. And this will include bill of lading, invoice, packing list. And these documents are required by the buyer to clear the goods. So documents that are not used, that are not demanding for payment from bank, but they are basically required to clear the goods, are called the commercial document. By the way, those commercial documents can form the basis for payment, but they are not designed to demand for payment. But a bank can pay on citing those documents if the documents are compliant. The bank can pay on citing those documents are compliant, but they are not demanding for payment. Unlike a draft that will say, so and so hereby demand for the payment of so amount in word and in figure from so day to so day. From so day to so day. So what that means is that you are given a timeline, maybe 120 days from the shipment date, or 60 days from invoice date, or 30 days from packing list date. Whichever date you are using, what is important is that there is a draft, there is a bill of exchange or promissory note, which basically give a commitment. Now let me talk about this draft. Draft is used in bill for collection transaction, where bank is a channel for transmitting document. Bank is a channel for receiving payment, for collection of payment, but banks are not obligated to pay. banks are not obligated to pay. In letter of credit, the same draft is used, but letter of credit is an undertaking of the buyer's bank given to the seller, giving assurance of payment when shipment is made and the terms and conditions of the transaction is fulfilled on the document presented. Now, in these two arrangements, drafts are required. But in bill for collection, the buyer is the one giving commitment to pay. In letter of credit, the buyer's bank is the one giving commitment to pay. So when you present a draft or bill of exchange under a bill for collection, you are using it to demand for payment from the importer and not the bank. Even though the document is transmitted through the bank, but you are using that draft to demand for payment from the importer. So when it gets to the bank will send it to its customer, the importer, who will sign an undertaking that he will pay sometimes in future. Thank you, Naimeka, for sharing. Let's try and share. Share Gina. Thank you very much for joining. Good morning. We appreciate if you can share the video with your friends and colleagues. Thank you very much. So, the importer signed an undertaking to pay because the draft is addressed to the importer because it's the one that have obligation to pay in a bill for collection transaction. In a letter of credit transaction, the draft is not addressed to the importer. It's addressed to the importer's bank because the importer's bank in this case that have the obligation to pay. It's the importer's bank in this case that have the obligation to pay. So the draft is addressed to the importer's bank for the importer's bank to effect payment because the importer's bank is the one obligated to pay. So the importer's bank is the one that accepts the draft and giving undertaking to pay. So you can see that even though draft is demanding for payment in a trade transaction, in bill for collection is demanding for payment from the importer. In letter of credit is demanding for payment from the importer's bank. In both cases, it is demanding for payment. Now, the difference between promissory note and draft is that in the case of draft, it is issued by the exporter demanding for payment from the importer or the importer's bank. In the case of promissory note, it is issued by the importer giving undertaking to pay. In the issue of draft and bill of exchange, it is issued by the exporter, sent through the exporter's bank to the importer's bank, demanding for payment from the importer in bill for collection, and demanding for payment from the importer's bank in the case of letter of credit. But in a draft situation, so in a promissory note situation, it's not the exporter that issued the instrument now, it's the importer that gives that undertaking to pay. So it's promising to pay, hence the name promissory note. Chikemodi, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Silas Irabo, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Let's remember to share. Click your share button so your friends can see it and get to know and learn about what you're learning this morning. Now, this same draft can be used as a means of financing. Imagine a scenario. Naimeka, I won't be available today and tomorrow. I think Wednesday will be better. So chat me on Tuesday evening. I'll be able to confirm if Wednesday will be okay. But today and tomorrow, I won't be available. So let's work towards Wednesday. Thank you. Okay. The bill of exchange can be used in case of financing. Look at this scenario. So imagine a situation where the importer have a good reputation with his bank. And the exporter is telling the importer that, okay, even though I've given 120 days for payment, I need that money earlier. Why you pay 120 days after shipment? Can you get your bank to pay ahead? And then when you pay, you reimburse your bank? Or can you get your bank to guarantee your payment? When the parent is guaranteed, you send me the draft of the guaranteed payment. After you have accepted this draft, your bank will send it to me through my bank. Then I can look for someone else in my country to provide funds for me ahead of when payment is due. In both instances, in this instance, we are trying to transfer that commitment to pay from the importer to the importer's bank. So even in bill for collection, where the importer has given the guarantee to pay, it's still possible that that commitment to pay is transferred to the importer's bank. Especially if the importer has good credit rating and standing and reputation with his bank. Now, when a bank decides to guarantee an accepted bill of exchange of an exporter, of an importer bank agreed to guarantee the accepted bill of exchange of an importer. That act of guaranteeing an accepted bill of exchange is called avalization. A-V-A-I-L-I-S-A-T-I-O-N. Avalization. It is said that that bill of exchange is avalized. It's avalized because payment is guaranteed. Typically, if the importer is the one that gave commitment, you know it's still possible at maturity. It says, look, oh, I've not been able to raise this money. Oh, please pardon me, help me. For whatever reason. But in the case of avalized bill of exchange, we are not looking for importer to be the source of payment. We are looking at the importer's bank as the source of payment. So that means we can say invariably that in a letter of credit, guarantee for payment is given ahead of shipment. But in avalized bill of exchange, guarantee for payment is given after shipment. Guarantee for payment is given ahead of shipment in letter of credit, but guarantee for payment is given after shipment in bill of exchange. When I now have this bill of exchange avalized by my bank, and I send it to the exporter, and the exporter is able to discount it with a bank. The bank that discounts and pay that exporter the full value of the draft less a charge is said to be a forfeitor. So the act of purchasing an avalized bill of exchange, a guaranteed bill of exchange by a bank, is called forfeiting. One more thing on draft before we move on from financial document. When a financial document is issued, it must be such that anybody that picks up that draft knows the day of payment. If the draft says payment is due 120 days from bill of lading date, the draft must state somewhere on that draft that bill of lading date. If the draft requires me to go and look for the bill of lading to ascertain the date of bill of lading and then calculate 120 days from that draft is not acceptable. Because a draft can be sold eventually to someone else. It's a financial document that someone has given a commitment to pay, and then when that commitment is received, that draft can be sold to someone else. It can be sold to someone else. If that is the case, how will that someone else get to know the date of shipment? Because it's not part of the transaction in the first place. I am an exporter, I've shipped the goods, the bill of exchange has been avalized, and I sell it to a bank or someone else in Nigeria who is not part of the transaction when we started. So how does he know when payment is due? So it is not allowed for a draft not to clearly state when payment is due by merely looking at it by whoever. Either the person looking at it is part of a transaction or not, that draft must contain a complete information as to the amount to be paid in words and in figure, and the date of maturity when the payment is due. Let me move on to the next thing. We have the pre and post export documentation. The pre and post export documentation. In Nigeria, for example, there are documents required for you to process and present to the bank before you ship. And there are documents you need to process and present to the bank after you have shipped. The document you present before you ship is called the application. The document you present after you ship is called the exchange control, validating that you have legally exported, and thereby making you eligible for all the incentive we talked about last week. It makes you eligible for all the incentive we talked about last week. So we have the pre-export documentation and the post-export documentation. This categorization is based on the time of issuance. The pre-export documents are issued before shipment. The post-export documents are issued after shipment. Then we have the regulatory document. I'll be explaining the pre and post export documentation later on. I don't want to explain it now. I will talk about them one by one later on. Pre and post export, regulatory document. This categorization is based on local law, either regional or national, in the importer or exporter's country, and they involve the requisite document required by law or regional law for the shipment of the goods or certain good out of the exporter's country into the importer's country. It is required by the local or regional law for the shipment of goods or a particular kind of goods out of the exporter's country or the importer's country. Here are some of the regulatory documents. In Nigeria, for example, we have what is called the NXP. NXP is Nigerian Export Proceed Form, and NXP is used for processing pre-export documentation. It's an application form for pre-export documentation. NXP is an application form for pre-export documentation. NSP is an application form for pre-export documentation. So what I will try to do now is to show you the document. I'm trying to open it. Let me continue while it's being opened. The next one is NESS, N-E-S-S, Nigeria Export Supervision Scheme. Nigeria Export Supervision Scheme. Whereas the NXP is Nigeria Export Proceed Form, an application form for importation into Nigeria, but the other one, which is the NESS, is the Nigeria Export Supervision Scheme. In this case, is a document, a receipt rather, that you obtain for paying the fee that government charge for exportation. It's a supervision scheme fee that government charge for exportation from Nigeria. Remember, the Nigerian government does not charge duty on export. The Nigerian government simply charge a fee for export supervision. Nigerian government simply charge a fee for export supervision. The government does not charge a duty, but it charges a fee. And this fee is 0.5% of the FOB value. This fee is 0.5% of the FOB value. The fee is 0.5% of the FOB value. The fee is 0.5% of the FOB value. So let me show you the NXP. I think the stuff has opened. And I will try as much as possible to see how I can do a little demonstration of this document so that it becomes easier for us to be able to see it and be able to appreciate some of the things we are talking about, so that all we are talking about will not look theoretical. Just in case, not very clear, but that's the NXP form. That's the NXP form. That's the NXP form. Next form is just a receipt. Next form is just a receipt. Sorry, next receipt, just a receipt. It's a receipt that enables that is a receipt rather that confirm. It's a receipt that confirm to the agency of government at the port that you have been able to pay the fee to the government. So it varies from bank to bank. It's just a receipt for payment. The next one is CAC and NEPC. CAC and NEPC. CAC is the Certificate of Incorporation from the Corporate Affairs Commission, and NEPC is the Nigerian Export Promotion Council license. Nigerian Export Promotion Council license. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council license. These two documents are regulatory documents required for you to export. By the way, if you are in Nigeria, that certificate of incorporation must be for a limited liability company. That certificate of incorporation must be for a limited liability company, and that's what will make you eligible. That is what will make you eligible to be able to get the export license, NEPC license. Then if you are also exporting food item, you will need NAFDAC certificate. If you are exporting non-food item, you will need MANCAP certificate. MANCAP is Mandatory Conformity Assessment Program. Mandatory Conformity Assessment Program. If you are exporting animal, you will need health certificate. If you are exporting plant like vegetable, you will need phytosanitary certificate. If you are exporting commodities, you will need fumigation certificate. All these are regulatory documents required for the shipment of the goods to the destination. All these are regulatory documents required for the shipment of the goods to the destination. Remember, I'm talking from Nigeria perspective. Nigerian perspective. I'll be rounding off now, and in the evening we'll continue on understanding export documentation, but this time around we'll be looking at the people involved, and we'll be looking at the processes involved. The people involved and the processes involved. The people that are involved and the processes that are involved. The people that are involved and the processes that are involved. Thank you very much for listening this morning. My name remains Dele Imibo, and this is Import-Export Platform Facebook Live, brought to you by 3T Impest Trade Academy. Remember, we come up every day, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Sorry we started late today because of the traffic in Lagos. Tina Osahon, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Omokudu Huanga, thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Have a great day at work, and bye for now.